This is less than an equation with variables on both sides. When I say that, I mean that the equation literally has variables on both sides. So they've got a variable on one side, and that equals a variable on the other side. So this equation has a variable on each side of the equal sign. We're talking, this becomes our side, becomes our fence, and we're going to use that a lot. So this is the left side and the right side of the equation. So let's get to it. So solving equations. To solve this, we're going to follow steps. It's methodical. If you do it methodically, you will always get the right answer. We're going to use that full little process chart that we made in the book as our guide to how to get this done. So the very first step, and that's right at the top, it's number 1 there. In fact, you can circle put a little 1 on the left side of that and circle it. It says, look at the equation. Are there any grouping symbols? Does it have parentheses? Does it have brackets? Does it have braces? If it does, we need to take care and use the distributive property. And the distributive property is as simple as this. If I've got 3 times x plus 3, I use the distributive property, meaning I multiply 3 times x, and then I multiply 3 times 3. So this becomes 3 times x is 3x, plus 3 times 3 is 9. And I've distributed that 3 between the two. All right, so here we've got an equation. 2 times x plus 4 plus 2 equals x minus 3 times x minus 6. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to distribute. So 2 times x and 2 times 4. Well, 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 4 is 8. Now bring this to, right now nothing's being distributed, but don't just leave it behind in the dust. You got to keep track of these things, just like this x. Now over here, this -3 is one entire number, and I'm going to distribute that number to both of these. And again, the -6 is one entire number. Don't drop the negative. So here I've got x. -3 times x is -3x. -3 times -6 is a positive 18, because a negative times a negative is a positive. So my equation now has no parentheses. I've distributed everywhere. So the second step, and we're following down, look at each side of the equation. Are there like terms on the left side? Are there like terms on the right side? Like terms means they have the same last name. So 4x minus 3x plus 2 plus 3 equals 10 has like terms. 2 and 3 are constants. They have no last name. They're like terms. 4 and -3x are like terms, so we can combine them. Well, 4 minus 3x in this case would become x plus 2 plus 5 is, or 2 plus 3 is 5, and that would equal 10. So I combine my like terms. So let's look at our equation again. We've got it down to this. Are there like terms? Well, yes. On the left side here, on the left side here, we've got 2 constants that are like. On the right side here, we've got 2 coefficients with the x variable that are like. Remember, you cannot combine constants with variables. You cannot combine variables with different variables together. So here I bring down the 2x, don't be losing it, plus 8 plus 2 is 10, and that will equal, well, x minus 3x. Look for the one farthest from the number 0, which would be 3x, -3x. Subtract the other and keep the sign. So -2x plus 18. So now I don't have any more like terms. Check the variables. Are there variables on both sides? Are there variables on both sides of the equal sign? This is another third step. If there are, we're going to choose the variable with the smaller coefficient. And the reason we do this is to not have to deal so much with negative numbers. It kind of gets us out of that requirement. When we get to inequalities, that certainly makes our problems less messy. So we're going to undo it by adding the opposite. So let's look. Are there variables on both sides? Yes. There are variables on both sides. Well, which one's the smaller one? The lesser one is this. We're going to add the opposite. Well, the opposite of -2x is a positive 2x. If we do it to one side, we must do it to the other side. It's like the toddler thing. If you give one cookie to a toddler to one, if you give a toddler or a cookie to one toddler, you got to give it to all the toddlers or they're screaming. So Right here, it becomes 0. We're going to bring that 18 down. Don't lose things. Here, 2x plus 2x is 4x plus 10 equals 18. Now, the next thing we're going to say is there a constant on both sides of the equations? Remember, a constant is a number without a variable. If there is yes, we're going to choose the constant on the same side as a variable and undo it, meaning we're going to take it to the other side. So 4x plus 10 equals 18. The constant on the same side as the variable is this plus 10. To get rid of it or undo it, we add the opposite. Well, the opposite of positive 10 is negative 10. If you do it to one side, you must do it to the other side. So we bring down the 4x. Always remember to bring your stuff down. Well, 10 minus 10 is 0. We can just drop that. And 18 minus 10 is 8. So now we're left with 4x equals 8. So then we're going to check the coefficient. We're at step 5 now. We're all the way down to that fifth slot on our tabs. So we're doing pretty good. Does your variable have a coefficient other than 1? Remember, a coefficient is the number with the variable. In this case, the coefficient would be 4. 4n is the total term. N is the variable. 4 is the number with it. If there is, we're going to undo the coefficient of the variable by doing the opposite operation. So if we're multiplying, like here, 4 times n, then we'll divide. And we do one side, we got to do it to both sides. So here I've got 4x equals 8. Well, 4, the operation involves multiplication, so the opposite of that is division. So I'll divide both sides by the coefficient. Well, here, 4 becomes 1. 1 is a ninja, because 1 times anything is whatever the thing is. And 8 divided by 4 is 2. So finally I get a solution that says x equals 2. That makes me pretty happy. So let's go on. Now we're going to check our solution by substituting. That should be by there. By substituting the value back into the original equation. So here's our original equation. 2x plus 4 plus 2 equals x minus 3 times x minus 6. So we're going to fill that back in. So we know that x equals 2. Let me change colors so we get a new color because I can do that nowadays. Let's use a red. So 2 times our x is 2 because we know that that's from our equation x equals 2. So 2 times 2 plus 4 plus 2 equals x is 2 minus 3 times x, which is 2, minus 6. So now we take our parentheses, doing our PEMDAS. So 2 times 2 plus 4 is 6. The red was not a good choice of colors. Plus 2 equals 2 minus a negative 3 times a 2 is a negative 6. Negative 3 times 6 is 18. I really made that harder, didn't I? I distributed over here. Oh, well, forgive me. Here I didn't distribute. There I did. I distribute. I went and did this, which is completely legal. I just shouldn't have done that. So here, 2 times 6 is 12, plus 2 equals 2 minus 6 is negative 4, plus 18 is 14. Well, 12 plus 2 is 14. 14 does equal 14, which means x is 2 is a correct solution. For those of you who don't do this step and you just leave the answer, you don't get good results. So let's see if I can do one real quick. Here I've got one. I'm going to put my fence up. I'm going to go to step 1. I'm going to look at the equation. Other grouping symbols? Yes. If there are, I'm going to distribute. So here I put my fence farther down. I end up with x plus 4 because there's no parentheses over here equals negative x, because negative 1 times x is negative x, minus 4. Negative 1 times 4 is minus 4. Are there like terms on left or right side? In this case, no. The next step is, are there variable on both sides? Well, yes. Which variable is less? This one is. To undo it, I'm going to add the opposite. So here I am adding the opposite. I love that little note in the corner that says my time is running out. So I get 2x plus 4 equals, these go away, a minus 4. Well, next step is there a constant add or subtract on both sides? Yes, there is. So I'm going to undo it, and I'm never going to finish this.